Good evening and many thanks for joining us. This is QTV News coming to you live from our studios along Kairaba Avenue. Our headlines this evening: President Adama Barrow today Wednesday laid the foundation stone for the 50-kilometer OIC Urban Roads project at a historic event in the coastal settlement of Kombo Brufut. The Independent Electoral Commission, the body responsible for the election processes in the Gambia, on Tuesday concluded a two-day refresher training on election procedure for a cross-section of stakeholders. The PAPEV project, in collaboration with the Gambia Police Force, on Wednesday commenced a three-day training of judiciary staff and other actors to accelerate justice for child victims. The Gambia Police Force Cooperative Credit Union on Saturday held its AGM and inaugurated their new office complex in Basse Mansajankunda. And in international news, the Gambia's permanent representative to the United Nations and the World Trade Organization, who is also the ambassador to Switzerland, has presented his letters of credence to the president of the Swiss Confederation Council. And today is World Day for Audiovisual Heritage. We look at why it is important. It is an important day, rather, worth commemorating. But for more on this and other stories coming up, I'm Ansmane Sonyasi. And now we take a look at the news in detail. President Adama Barrow today Wednesday laid the foundation stone for the 50-kilometer OIC Urban Roads project at a historic event in the coastal settlement of Kombo Brufut. When completed, the roads will decongest the main highways. Well, for details of that, later in this news bulletin. Now, the Independent Electoral Commission, the body responsible for the election processes in the Gambia, on Tuesday concluded a two-day refresher training on the election procedure for journalists, civil society organizations, political party representatives and the police. William Kamara attended and seen our reports.
These stakeholders from across the country are here to familiarize themselves with the electoral process ahead of the election. The first group to start the discussion comprised the media and CSOs, followed by the political party representatives and police. The discussion centered around the roles and responsibilities of each of these stakeholders and what is expected of them from the nomination through to the election day. At the opening ceremony on Monday, Hannah Foster, chairperson of the CSO Coalition, praised the IEC for the timely organization of the training. She added that to achieve our intended goals ahead of the election, stakeholders should continue working together.
A lot of people have been saying Gambia, no problem. But then 2016 took all of us by surprise. We do not want a repeat of 2016. And it is the role of each and every one of us to ensure there is no repeat of that.
The IEC chairman, Aliu Momanjai, reminded both the journalists, political party representatives and the police of their respective roles during the electoral processes. According to Chairman Jai, Gambia's election has been free, fair and transparent, and that should be maintained. Ibrahim Abba, Assistant Inspector General of Police, on behalf of the IGP, said this training could not have come at a better time as Gambians are preparing to vote on December 4, 2021. He then reveals plans put in place by the Gambia Police Force.
That the Gambia Police Force have already finalized and finished the drafting and development of the Electoral Security Operation Plan. This was done in collaboration with all relevant stakeholders, that is, all security agencies. Series of consultative meetings and forums have been ongoing with other security agencies with a view to coordinate our collective efforts and activities to make sure we deliver a safe and secure elections.
Park and Communications Officer IEC explained the need for stakeholders training.
It is important that each of these stakeholders know their responsibilities and their roles during the process. This is all geared to make sure that the election is conducted freely, fairly, and very peacefully, and also so that it is done according to law and that there is high understanding of all the processes involved.
Mariama Cham, a journalist, said this refresher training will help and guide her during election reporting and gave some encouraging words to her fellow journalists.
What I'm just advising people out there is let them watch credible media houses, like people or credible journalists. Let them follow credible journalists who you know that they will give them accurate and proper information rather than depending on social media whereby you can have anything or everything in there.
At the end of the presentation, manuals on election procedures were presented to stakeholders for use as a guide during the upcoming election. And the Independent Electoral Commission announced that as of Tuesday, 26 October, 13 political parties and 12 independent candidates have filed the nomination forms. The nomination process will be from the 30th October to 5th November 2021. For QTV News, Lolly M. Kamara.
We're looking forward to the nominations. Now, the PAPEV project, in collaboration with the Gambia Police Force, on Wednesday commenced a 3-day training of judiciary staff and other actors to accelerate justice and enhance greater care of children victims of rights violations. Ajibintu Drame reports.
A lack of adequate capacity of staff is among challenges that delay processes and procedures to ensure timely response to the needs of child victims of rights violations. In ensuring this, judiciary staff play an important role in ensuring access and quick justice delivery for children. There are gaps that need addressing to safeguarding child victims in the Gambia. Eugenia Pisani, program officer with the Italian Development Cooperation Agency, says the training is important to achieve the Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. She adds that more collaborations are needed to strongly enhance greater care of child victims of rights violations.
The Italian cooperation considers children and teenagers as main characters of their own development as well as the country's development and future. Hence, Italy attributes them dignity, promotes children's rights, and recognizes the principle of leaving no one behind.
Abdullah Sanyang, a representative of the Inspector General of Police, says the police are often the first point of contact in getting redressed. He says children that have suffered harm need protection and fulfillment of their rights to redress. Andre Ori, representative of the Office of the High Commission of Human Rights, explains.
Continue to be deprived of their rights despite the initiative taken by the governments of the country to address their commitment to the promotion and protection of their human rights and children's rights in terms of child labor, forced mobility, child marriage, female genital mutilation, child abuse, etc. Without access to justice, children remain vulnerable to abuses from their family environment, from society, or even from the state.
Fatu Kinte, the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, says the training is timely. She adds that the culture of silence and slow justice delivery process hinders the process of solving child-related cases.
Community capacity is also strengthened and perpetrators of violence against children are punished. Ladies and gentlemen, this training is a crucial step that will ensure greater community awareness of processes and procedures in the judicial system that can bring perpetrators of violence against children to justice.
Hussein Tomasi, a representative of the Ministry of Justice, had this to say.
The rehabilitation and reintegration programs at the juvenile wings also need to be strengthened to guarantee that child offenders are successfully integrated into their communities after their release.
The support project for the protection of children victims of violations of their rights, PAPEV, started operations in the Gambia in September 2019 and seeks to support ECOWAS countries, including the Gambia, to strengthen child protection, quicken justice delivery systems, and promote a safer environment for children. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
And that report by Ajibintu Drame will lead us to the commercial break, but the news continues when we return.
Gambia OIC Secretariat in the Ministry of Works and the National Roads Authority wolle koy be berelala kala membe kala tariko ti nyimbanko kan pour ka datiri ke 50 km urban road project ola wala mu ibe silolu menu di dala ko mbokono anu o dalola e ko nyimbere labe kala burfut sata wala kono ila football filoto abe kala arabalu ngo october karotili muwang ani woro wala be datila talantanin kilin somandal andu nyindabe kafuring do ko lela e nyanta menkela pour OIC me yalon ko nyanta jiala jang 2022 bengo memba nyaton ka yala wala na banko le president bati his excellency Adama Barrow anala man sakunda be anda nata ke moti menson ta pour kanyim bengo nyaton ka ya kadatiri ke do ko wala membe kelen na tundo ka me yalon ko membita fo silamuwang ibe wala do kulale nyin silamuwang bebe do kula OIC la nyin 50 km road project ko koto me yalon ko na pareta abe lampo du sota la kartanta wala jibor silol be laje ani mol be kala tamala damen ninyin silol be do ko te pareta ibe na traffico la deto talala ibe fironi sandiro yiru wande la na banko kan andi be banko fango mulungo nyi nyandi la bakele.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just joining us, this is QTV News coming to you live from our studios along Kairaba Avenue, and I am Ansumane Sonyasi. Now, the Gambia Police Force Cooperative Credit Union on Saturday held its annual general meeting and the inauguration of their new office complex in Basse, Mansajankunda. The event was an opportunity to present the credit union's annual reports and accounts for the year ended 31st December 2020. Our reporter for the Money attended the event, and here is his report, narrated by Omar P. Jallo.
The Gambia Police Force Cooperative Credit Union, GPFCCU, was formed in 1999 by the staff of the Gambia Police Force to operate a financial cooperative union, providing financial and non-financial services to members. In celebration of the GPFCCU's 22nd anniversary meeting this year, on the theme, Managing Credit Unions in an Era of Global Pandemic, the chairman of the board, Ansumana Sanyang, says the registered members increased from 11,325 in December 2019 to 11,837 in December 2020, a 4.5% growth. Mr. Sanyang also added that during the period under review, despite the turmoil caused by the global pandemic, the union's saving increased from 178,960,522 in 2019 to $207,124,017 in 2020, representing an increase of 16%. The credit union has also expanded and renovated its offices and conducted training and capacity building for its members. The Commissioner of Police in URR, representing the Inspector General of the Gambia Police Force at the event, Esa Baji commended the board for the successes registered during the review period and reminded his officers why it is important to join the credit union.
Credit union, I would say, is another important sector in our lives because, one, the advantages that it has, to my understanding, is, for example, if you are without any cars and you are to get married, you can go to credit union, obtain loan, or for example, naming ceremony. For example, if you want to buy land, and then again, school fees, medical treatment, and so forth.
The board put for consideration a resolution to open a common bond to accommodate private security institutions registered under the Ministry of Interior. Pa Daniel Mendy, representing the General Manager of the National Association of Cooperative Credit Unions of the Gambia NACOOP, explained the importance of having the common bond.
The advantages of opening the common bond is that you are able to reach out to more and you are able to attract membership from a wider base. And as a result, you begin to grow exponentially in your finances and in your assets. So your liquidity position will be consolidated and your asset base will grow. And in that way, you will remain vibrant.
Among the other successes registered by the GPFCCU is the opening of a new regional branch in Basse for its members in the Upper River region to easily access their accounts to do their transactions. At the inauguration of this new complex in Basse, which contains 3 telepositions, a manager's office, a mini conference hall, and high-quality toilet facilities, The chairman of the board extended his gratitude to all those who contributed to the success of this project.
The credit union needs to look into the plight of members. So if you have a board that cannot look into your plight and ensure your needs are addressed, then it means we are not doing a good job.
As one of the outstanding credit unions in the Gambia, the GPFCCU is committed to implementing strict policies to ensure that proper accountability is adhered to, guided by the laws and policies of the union. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
And we now take a look at international news. The Gambia's permanent representative to the United Nations and the World Trade Organization, who is also the ambassador to Switzerland, officially the Swiss Confederation and other international organizations in Switzerland, has presented his letters of credence to the president of the Swiss Confederation Council. Mahmoud Lamin Choi tells us more.
In a special ceremony last month, Ambassador Mohamedou Emoka presented his letters of credence to the president of the Swiss Confederation Council, His Excellency Guy Parmelin, at Bern, Switzerland. Having fulfilled this diplomatic protocol as an ambassador to Switzerland, Professor Mohamedou Emoka is well placed to promote bilateral ties and cooperation between Gambia and Switzerland on various areas of development, including security, migration, air transport, and more. In his bilateral talks with President Parmelin, Ambassador Ka expressed his government's appreciation for the ongoing new forms of support and collaboration emerging from the bilateral relations. As a Gambian ambassador to Switzerland, Professor Ka indicates his interest to facilitate newer bilateral agreements that will respond to the Gambia's National Development Plan and His Excellency President Adama Barrow's development agenda and vision. Recognizing that the Gambia is not a Swiss agency for development and cooperation priority, though a number of SDC projects are underway in the Gambia, Ambassador Ka conveyed President Barrow's interest to have the Gambia included among SDC priority countries to broaden and deepen bilateral agreements and engagements. The SDC is Switzerland's international corporation which actively promotes global sustainable development with the aim of reducing poverty and global risks. Following the presentation of the letters of credence, President Guy Parmelin congratulated His Excellency Professor Mohamedou Emoka on his appointment and assured him of his full support and that of the Swiss Confederation Council during his tenure. The Swiss Confederation Council President sent his greetings to His Excellency President Adama Barrow, and in appreciation of the friendly relations between the Gambia and the Swiss Confederation, underscored the importance the Swiss Confederation attaches to its bilateral relations with the Gambia. Between 1988 and 1995, Switzerland was one of the Gambia's main donor countries. Citizens of the two countries traveled to each other's countries, and it is reported that at the end of 2019, 38 Swiss nationals were living in the Gambia, while 586 Gambians were living in Switzerland. With support from Switzerland, the Gambia opened a permanent mission in Geneva with dual accreditation in March 2018. The two countries this year also signed an aviation services agreement which allows airlines to offer passengers and shipping companies competitive prices and services on open markets, while preserving strict safety standards. Between 2017 and 2018, Switzerland funded a project led by the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance, DECAF, to promote security sector reform in the country, which is still underway. Mahmoud Lamin Choi, QTV News.
Now, today, the 27th of October, is World Audiovisual Heritage Day, set aside to commemorate the safeguarding and preservation of moving images. Jennifer Sonko has the rest of that story.
For the safeguarding and preservation of moving images. The theme for this year's commemoration is Your Window to the World. UNESCO says audiovisual materials such as documentary heritage objects provide a window to the world as we observe events we cannot attend. We hear voices from the past who no longer speak, and we craft stories that inform and entertain. Audiovisual is electronic media processing both a sound and a visual component such as films, TV programs, corporate conferencing and live theater productions. The United Nations says audiovisual archives tell us stories about people's lives and cultures from all over the world. They represent a priceless heritage, which is an affirmation of our collective memory and a valuable source of knowledge, since they reflect the cultural, social, and linguistic diversity of our communities. In this age, audiovisual content is easy to capture due to the advances in digitalization. Just as importantly, it requires extra effort for its protection, as it could simply be deleted or used against an individual. UNESCO calls on countries to protect their audiovisual heritage and use it for the right reasons. In the Gambia, the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission's public hearings have been recorded and can be used by future generations to know about the 22 years of Yahya Jammeh's rule. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jenna Pasonko.
And I'm afraid that is all we have for you in this bulletin. But before we take a leave of you, here's a recap of our main stories. But meanwhile, the President's report will come in our 10 o'clock bulletin. Now, the Independent Electoral Commission, the body responsible for the election processes in the Gambia, on Tuesday concluded a two-day refresher training on election procedure for a cross-section of stakeholders. The PAPEF project, in collaboration with the Gambia Police Force, on Wednesday commenced a three-day training of judiciary staff and other actors to accelerate justice for child victims. The Gambia Police Force Cooperative Credit Union on Saturday held its AGM and inaugurated their new office complex in Basse Mansajankunda. And in international news, the Gambia's permanent representative to the United Nations and the World Trade Organization, who is also the ambassador to Switzerland, has presented his letters of credence to the President of the Swiss Confederation Council. And today is World Day for Audiovisual Heritage. We looked at the importance of the day and why it is worth commemorating. Well, that is all we have for you. Do join us at 10 p.m. for another bulletin. Until then, thanks for watching.